Hit the subscribe button below and never miss another RX Muscle show, segment, or update. RX Muscle is number one. Woo!
Why cut back? Why cut back? Woo!
Welcome back to another episode of Iron Rage, the show where we let all our pent-up frustrations fly free. The show has garnered a very nice audience over the last several weeks that John Romano and I started it, and now, today, we have add-ons. We have new people coming on. Today's topic, Steve Bleckman in Muscular Development magazine. We saw a groundbreaking interview yesterday with David Baye, the former editor-in-chief of Muscular Development, who revealed and confirmed the stories that John, myself, and Chris Aceto have been talking about over the last several months, that Steve Bleckman does indeed owe a tremendous amount of money out to many people who are staff writers, photographers, videographers, illustrators, and David Baye felt it in his heart to tell the truth and to let the public be known that Steve doesn't pay his bills. John, let's go to you first because you have been saying all along that the ship is sinking. You called him the Titanic, and they were, well, I forget the exact expression you used, but it was absolutely hysterical and very accurate.
You know, he is sinking. It's a sinking ship, and we saw the writing on the wall, years ago when this first started going downhill. It was, got to remember, when we were there, it was 560 pages, that magazine. Now it's a 28-page pamphlet. So, there's definitely been a deleterious course of events that have, brought that magazine down, which is really sad. And it's why, we're reporting on it, merely from a historical standpoint, is that Muscular Development is the oldest running bodybuilding title left in existence. I think it was started in 1932 by Bob Hoffman of York Barbell. So, it's a historic piece, and to see it being run into the ground by, an inept, publishing, self-proclaimed magnate, that, it's sad. And I think on top of that, the modus by which he's keeping this, ailing, dying fish afloat is that, he's promising people God knows what to keep them working for free. And he's owed people over a year's salary. There's people that are owed over $100,000 who are not getting their money. Right. So, as a matter of public service to our industry, we owe it to everybody listening to discuss the downfall of this magazine and what it means to the industry and how not to get caught in its web of deception.
Well, it's interesting that today happens to be the 8th anniversary of RxMuscle.com. I guess Steve likes to fire people pretty much on the same days of every year, because John and I left Muscular Development in 2009. We started RxMuscle February 1st, 2009. This is 8 years. We're still going strong and better than ever, and we've been evolving in what we've been doing. Obviously, MD doesn't have the same, I guess you could say, good luck. They've been going downhill. Isn't Chris Aceto, let me bring you in. Isn't the Steve Bleckman story kind of like a tragic Shakespearean play where that main character is tragically flawed and is going to eventually cause his own demise? I mean, we saw the writing on the wall over the last several years, without a doubt.
Well, the tragic flaw was the insightful Constitution "Why Cut Back" text that he fired off to me at 1 a.m, which was, "Dear Chris, I hear Dave's not doing well. I feel so bad for him. How would you like to work for me? I'm still publishing 12 issues out of the year. So it's what comes around goes around, and it's ironic. The irony is that he's been so obsessed with seeing his rival, you, John, RxMuscle, fail, that here we are on the 8th anniversary, and they are, by all legitimate purposes, a failed magazine and website right now. And I want to point out that I don't buy this idea that people are owed money. People have had their money stolen from them because they already put in the services, they put in the work. So when you put in the work and you have an agreement to be paid and you are not paid, that's called in the real world stealing, theft. And there's a reason why people are owed money and checks are not bounced, because Louis will tell you there's a big difference between bouncing a check on someone and owing them money legally. Your ass is grassing in the jail for bouncing a check on him. So he's sharp enough to know that, to cover his ass so that he doesn't send out checks and have them bounce. He just does the checks in the mail. You didn't get your check? You should have got your check. Oh, we'll look for your check. Or, yeah, we owe you money, but let's come up with a different, agreement from here going forward. Or I'm going to send you, I owe you 30 grand. I'm going to send you 6 grand. Meanwhile, you're owed 24 and you're still working, and he's digging himself deeper and deeper into the hole. Bernie Madoff doesn't have much on him, actually. I'm going to call the site from now on the Bernie Madoff site, or MB for Madoff Bleckman.
The interesting thing about this whole scenario is that Ron Harris, who is now the editor-in-chief over there online, obviously was made the editor-in-chief because he's owed the most money. He actually put a post up on their website. He said, I'm not owed $100,000. It was close to that, but we're working on getting it paid down now. Like he tried to...
$105,000.
Yeah, he tried to downplay it like it wasn't a big deal, and then he's being paid off now. In other words, he's got a job now that pays better, but he'll never get the back pay. He doesn't understand it. He just got bamboozled completely because of the fact that he felt that I have to do damage control, because I'm sure that Bleckman had convened a special counsel after that David Baye interview, and they had a meeting of the minds there where, what are we going to do? Damage control.
Guys.
Right?
Got to strategize.
Dave,
I want to introduce, we have another guest on the line, the big sexy Louis Uridel. I brought him in because he is a lawyer and he has legal knowledge. And Louis, what I want to know, we all want to know, is what recourse do these athletes, photographers, videographers have to get this money from Steve Bleckman? Because this is like grand larceny. This is a lot of cash he owes out.
Yeah, there's a lot of, especially you guys are using the term employees a lot. If they're actually employees of MD and they were getting a certain check every so often, there's a huge ramification that state and federally. If you withhold people's pay, there's certain pay periods you get more money for. There's a case out here where a hotel worker was withheld just 2 hours of pay for the whole year. A daylight savings. He actually worked an extra hour, but didn't get paid for it, and then worked an extra hour on the other one and didn't get paid for it. And it was 2 hours, and he was given 2 whole pay periods on top of the 2 hours he wasn't paid for. So, you guys hear me all right?
That's peanuts compared to what Bleckman owes. Bleckman owes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand.
Right. So we
What
start
does that
getting into
mean?
that now. You start getting into that, your employees, you first thing you want to do is if you either get a labor attorney or you can contact the Department of Labor of your local state. That's probably the best way to go about it. If you try to take them to a small claims court, which is only limited around $5,000 to $10,000 at most, or sue him in state court, you're going to be tough pressed because you have to get him served process. Unless you live in New York, it's going to be hard to get him like that. Like if I try to sue him out in California, I'd have to wait until he came out here to actually serve him process to sue him in state court. So best way to do it is I contact the Department of Labor, and if they make a determination that you are actually working him as an employee, you're protected by a lot of labor laws, and with that amount of money mean, you miss one pay period. There could be federal criminal charges involved.
Yeah, but the majority of those people
Yeah.
are not employees. They're independent contractors.
You could make it. I could make a good argument for someone like Dan Ray.
He's an employee, dude. He's an employee. He's not in.
Exactly.
Right.
You can make a strong argument.
Got beat him in court under that same auspice that he was, even though he was an independent contractor, he was technically an employee because he had a regular paycheck every month for years. From
Yeah, like
And he's spending the most amount of his time, all of his time, dedicated to that one job, working for Muscular Development. You can pretend that he's not an employee so that you don't have to pay his payroll taxes or his Social Security. Yeah, he's an employee.
So what do they do? What do you do, Louis, in those circumstances?
Well, you would try, if they're mislabeling him as an independent contractor to avoid paying the employment tax. Now it's a whole other ballgame. The state labor department can make that determination. They'll look at it. Say someone like someone shows up for what you have to show up at a certain time. You have to do a certain job. You have to wear certain clothes. They make the guys that do the interviews dress up. You have to do certain things. You can make a strong argument that all those are aspects of an employee rather than an independent contractor, where to me a contractor is, I need you to paint the roof of my house. They show up and paint it between 10 and 2. I don't tell them how to paint. I don't tell them what to wear. They just come out and do it. You can make a strong argument that MD has a lot of control over the people and what they do, how they get there, how they're reimbursed. They actually reimburse you in your payments. They reimburse you as income. They don't reimburse you as expenses. So every time I got reimbursed, I had to make sure my account was separated, so I had to pay taxes on my reimbursements.
Wow.
So they're not doing things by the book over there, which is a problem. Now, this is Louis, what I find most people don't like things that are complicated. So if you were giving legal advice to someone who, like Dan Ray, calls you up and said, "Hey, Louis, how can I get my $55,000 that Steve Bleckman owes me?" How would you advise him? What would be the steps that he should take to get that money back?
First thing I do is I contact my state labor department, Secretary of Labor in my state.
In your current state you live in?
Yeah, wherever he's in. He's in
Missouri.
Is he
Yeah.
Missouri?
Or something like that.
Yeah, or Kansas, or wherever you're at.
Kansas.
That's what I do. Is I contact them, explain the situation to them, and they go after that pretty hard.
Oh, they
don't
do?
like that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Because when you are labeling someone as an independent contractor and you're taking away employee benefits and not paying employees, they try to protect those people a lot. That's a lot of money they're losing, and you're not paying.
Right.
Louis, talk to me a little bit about the idea of not bouncing checks versus just not paying people. Because
Bouncing
obviously
check-
the money is not there. The money is not there.
If you
So
bounce a check, it's a felony.
yeah, my point is, isn't it ironic that no checks have been bounced? People don't get bounced checks, they just don't get checks.
Right.
You see the point? The point
Yeah.
being is that you're
Because they're on the
avoiding.
desk.
Well,
Run
it's a
his
lot
desk.
harder. It's a lot harder to go after someone for the money than to a bounced check that you can automatically get them. It's
Dude,
there.
That's why I compare. That's one reason of many. I compare him to Bernie Madoff. It's like white collar, sneaky, slick promises, and yet it's all a house of cards. And you know what, Dave? It's all a house of cards. You know what's, John? Remember when Bill Clinton, one of your favorites, was being impeached?
Yes.
Or he was with the chick, and he sent out in a press conference the Joint Chiefs of Staffs, Madeleine Albright, John Podesta, and they all step forward and say, he did not have relations with that lady. He did not have relations.
Right.
Blackman does the same thing. Dave's been calling them on the carpet for 18 months of not paying people. And in turn, Sean Ray is peddled out there. Bob Ciccarillo is peddled out there and saying, "Oh, Dave doesn't know what he's talking about. Everything's fine. This is just business as usual. This is just a hiccup. Dave doesn't know the internals." What the irony that the guy who's celebrating his 8th year in business, who just put the torpedo on the sinking Titanic, MD, that Dave would actually have all the accurate information, and now he parades out the whistleblower extraordinaire, David Baye, to back up everything that's been on RxMuscle, whether it be on radio shows, TV shows, on the site for 18 months. The the sleaziness of it all is that instead of paying people, they're not paid. The sleaziness, the sneakiness is there's no bounce checks. And the sleaziness is Bob Chick and Sean Ray are forced to go out there and take Steve's word that either all these people are lying or things are just perfect and we're just, restructuring.
Well,
It all goes back to their constitution. Dave, you got to read the Why Cut Back text at some point during the show because it is the tragic, soliloquy that it should have never been said.
But now, I tried to ask David yesterday, and I think this is an issue that, nobody's paying attention to, is what is Bleckman's plan? I mean, so right now he's flailing. He's, treading water at a chaotic pace to try to stay above the water line. He owes everybody money. I mean, we threw out the number yesterday, $1 million, and David Baye didn't even blink. So, between all the people he owes money to over all the time he owes, it's probably close to that, if not more. Okay, so, what's the plan? What is the plan to climb out of this hole, pay these people back, and there is no plan. So the question then becomes, let's start the death pool. How much further can this draw out by Bleckman just dancing around and, extending, production and the website and the whatever, 20, 30 magazines he's selling, that he has printed? At what point does it just become, it just fizzles out, You know what, John? There's no plan to bring it back because he's not doing anything different. Well, so to expect a different outcome is lunacy.
If he had the ability to issue stock, it'd be issued today, right? You just get investors' money and just keep the whole thing going. I'm telling you, it's a Bernie Madoff. It's like this.
Capital. His wife won't let him spend any of the fortune on his glute obsession. So while you have 100 people or 50 to 100 people who are owed tens of thousands of dollars across the span of the industry, you've got his wife posting pictures of them on their $50,000 cruise in the Caribbean on a yacht, and which flies in the face of these people who are not being paid. So obviously there's no plan to fix this. It's going to be an ongoing mishmash of bad ideas and bad deals to try to bamboozle advertisers to send in more money in so that Bleckman can play another day.
Well, what's interesting, John, is that we were looking up before Steve's house in Aspen. They have that great house next to Ivana Trump in Aspen, and according to the records department, they sold the house for $10 million 2 years ago. You think that at that point, when he was owing people money, he would have taken a little bit of that profit and would have just paid off everyone he owed and start from zero again. That would have been the best thing to do. It would have gotten everyone off his back. No one would have said anything, and then he could have restructured, from ground zero. But now he's never going to look good because he owes everyone money. The question is, and I have this to Louis, to Chris, and to John, should there be sanctions taken after this guy? Should he be not allowed to get press passes for shows? Should he not be allowed into shows until he pays his debt to the bodybuilders? Look, Jarka Lori ran the Masters Olympia and didn't pay out the prize money she promised and a couple other things she didn't promise out. And you know what? They banned her. They wouldn't let her promote shows anymore. I believe that Steve Bleckman should be sanctioned. I want to hear what your opinions are. Louis?
Yeah, I definitely think there should be some serious sanctions against them from the IFBB and NPC. They should not be allowed any press passes. They shouldn't be allowed in to cover any shows until they do it. They always talk to the press about, let's have loyalty for the IFBB NPC. We've always been loyal, Dave. We've always been loyal. We've always backed the IFBB up, the NPC up. We always stand up and speak for them. And now, a lot of those people who stand up and speak up for the NPC, like Dan Ray and all these other, David Baye, they always go to battle for them, getting screwed on getting paid. So let's see some, reciprocity back towards us, individuals, people that have been screwed over by MD. Let's say, listen, guys, you want to be honest part of this business? Pony up, pay your people you owe, and we'll let you back in and get your press passes then.
John?
It's a reprehensible, if not duplicitous, thing to do. lure people into working, somehow connive people to work for you, knowing you not only owe them money, but you're not going to pay them for the work that you're soliciting them to do right now. So, as a matter of course, he's feeding off the industry that surrounds bodybuilding. And that industry is controlled and owned by the NPC and the IFBB. And, as the keepers of our goodwill among the industry, this one guy is poisoning the entire industry, because who knows who is going to fall into his trap? Who is going to be what next photographer, videographer, writer, contest prep guy, social media guru, whatever. What next person is going to happen into the clutches of Steve Bleckman and be subsequently drained of their their service or their product and not get paid? So I think as a safety net for the people who feed off our industry legitimately is that the IFBB and the NPC should sanction Bleckman and warn make a formal warning that they do not support what he's doing, and that anybody seeking employment with Muscular Development, beware, because the guy doesn't pay. And like Louis said, bar him from the shows. You can't get him press passes. You can't participate in our industry unless you participate in the industry like everybody else and not rip off our constituents.
Chris Aceto?
Well, I would just add that if Dave Palumbo owed $5,000, $20,000, $80,000, $60,000 to people who already had provided services, they had already done the work for you, Steve Bleckman would be sending out the David Bayes, sorry David, and the Adinas, the Seans, the Chicarillos. He would tell all those people, isn't it terrible that Dave owes all these people? And he would slime your name based on the fact that you owe money. So we know that. Well, and he would bamboozle the people he works with. He would pressure them based on the fact that if they actually were being paid, they'd probably be motivated. The guy pays me. All right, I'll go on the website and slander Dave and rub gasoline into the wound that he hasn't been paying people. So the irony is that it's him who's not paying. So he would have not involved the NPC and the IFBB if you weren't paying people. He would have been involving the IRS, labor people, everyone in between and, on the outside and inside.
So should there be sanctions against him? Should he be banned from, participating until he pays these valuable employees, videographers, from the Lloyd Terrys to the Stan Rays to the Chris Nichols?
Then you're encouraging him to do more of it.
Right. That's
if you
what I
don't,
think.
then you're putting your stamp of approval. If you show up at the damn USA Championships and your crew is there, and that you look to the left and look to the right, and you see other people all, who we know are owed money, and for the USA he pays the promoter to show up and cover that show. Shame. That's just a shame on everything that is legit and should be decent about business, bodybuilding, and just moral decency. So yes, he should not have the
It's a privilege to cover these shows, so he should lose the privilege to cover these competitions because of the fact he's not, playing ball with the rest of us. Look, everyone, when we go to these shows and we all sit in the press pit together, from J.M. Mannion to Dan Ray to, Jeff Binns, to our photographer, Ralph Noble, to whoever, Mike Sanseverino, all these people, we're all in the same pit. We're all from different companies. We're all trying to make a living. We're all making a living off the same exact sport. And then you got one guy who's trying to exclusively eliminate everyone else. I want to sign you for the weekend. Don't talk to these guys. He's the one creating all the chaos at the shows because of his exclusivity contracts, and he's not even paying anyone. These morons are not even getting paid for not talking to us. They're getting bamboozled by him. I think the organization should say, hey, you know what, Steve? This has gone too freaking far. Until you make good on your debts, you're not welcome at our shows anymore.
He's feeding off the industry. He is feeding off them, and he's taking advantage of them, and he's using his clout as a wealthy man, because everybody knows he's rich, to instill a belief or a hope that, you know, these people are going to get paid because the guy's loaded. So,
well,
you know,
John, I think that is what you just said is the whole summary of David Baye, not desire but need to come on and do an interview with Dave and just spill the beans, because he was at the point of enough is enough.
right, exactly.
Enough is enough, and you know, without David Baye coming on, right? Without David Baye coming on and just spending an hour and 40 minutes with Dave and going through points A through Z on everything that has gone on to confirm everything that Dave's been talking about for 18 months. If David Baye didn't come on, Blackman would he will anyway, but he'd send out Sean Ray and he'd send out Ron Harris, and you know, he'd say, no, it's just a restructure. You know, you don't understand. Nobody knows the internals. Dave hasn't seen the books. Yeah, okay, whatever. You know, where's Adina in all this? Where the hell's Adina? She got axed before. You know, go through.
It's a question. It's a simple question. Why are all these people owed money? If everything's great over there, why are all of these people owed not just a couple of bucks, but like tens of thousands, in some cases over $100,000? If everything's okay, you know, as per, you know, the Goon Squad is going to promote, then why are all these people not paid? If everything's great, pay these people. What acumen are you following that dictates that it's a good idea to keep, you know, 40 or 50 people in the rears when it comes to, you know, your fledgling company?
Give me another business. Dave, give me a business. Louis, John, give me a business where you can owe 40 people, 40 vendors money, and still actually show up to an office and not have either someone there who's a bill collector ready to shut you down, the IRS ready to shut you down, someone wanting to punch you in the face. How do you stay in business? How do you keep things going on a day-to-day basis?
You don't pay anyone. That's how you stay in business. You know, you don't pay anyone. Look, the bottom line is that what I want people out there to understand is that if you're pissed off about this, and if you realize how unjust this is to the people who bust their ass to bring you guys, the fans, the coverage out there to these shows, then you know what? Email the NPC main office, email the IFBB main office, send JM a Facebook message, JM Magnet online, so he could tell his dad. Let these people know you're pissed off and you don't want this guy or his organization in your shows anymore because they belong to you, the fans. They're yours. Right. They're not mine. They're not Steve Blackman's. These are your shows. You support the sport. Voice your opinion. Tell these guys you don't want this guy around until he pays his bills. If he pays his bills, fine, he can come back. But until everyone's paid in full, we don't want to hear from him. That's the bottom line, and that's what we're trying to put forth here today.
You know,
John, you need to clear up this. You need to clear up this phony, bogus idea, which is a small elephant in the room. Palumbo and Romano were fired. They're just pissed at him. That's all. They're just pissed at Blackman.
Look, I made this statement yesterday. This is not a matter of sour grapes. We are a news reporting agency. When the oldest running bodybuilding title in the history of the sport is facing its ultimate demise, that is news. It is incumbent upon us to report this news to the constituency. Beyond that, this is a very tightly knit industry. We are all friends. Dan Ray's our buddy. You know, Charles Glass is our friend. We are friends with just about all of the players. And, you know, we've all been in this 25, 30 years. So, you know, we go way back. We know each other for a long time. This is an industry of very closely knit friendships. And when we see one of our bros, you know, being mistreated, owed tens of thousands of dollars or more, you know, when they're a good guy, a good hardworking guy that creates a good product at a fair price, and, you know, we see him being hurt by this guy, and then it's not only him, it's the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And the next thing you know, we have a slew of our friends who are being, you know, hurt and you know, undermined by this guy whose sole interest is in himself and you know, massaging his ginormous ego. So this is just an absolutely toxic situation that exists, and as so far removed from sour grapes as it could possibly be. Our message is for the industry. Like I said before, if you're a videographer, a photographer, a prep coach, a trainer, in any way, shape, or form offer a service or a product that is valuable to Bleckman, do approach his employee with caution. And if you're going to transact any business with him at all, you make sure you get your money up front, because he owes way too many people way too much money. And that is really the impetus for our coverage on this. Is not only is it the fact that the oldest running bodybuilding title in history is being run into the ground by an inept CEO, but the fact that we have, you know, our friends being adversely affected by this and owed serious amounts of money to the degree that it is hurting them. And so we want to make sure that no one else, you know, falls to, you know, susceptible to this situation, and you know, warn everybody. So, you know, it's news, and at the same time a public service announcement.
To wrap up, I want to just go to Louis Uridel real quickly. Louis, I have one question for you. Are you owed any money? Because I know you were working for MD for a little while.
No, I actually had to threaten them hard to get my money. And then the reason I ended up stopped working for them, because I requested if I was going to do any more work for them, they'd have to pay me all my expenses, prepaid up like $250, $300 for my expenses ahead of time. Because I was going 3-4 months out of my pocket for my parking at the airport, my food,
that's
everything like
ridiculous.
that. So I was like, I'm not going to spend money to work for you, you know.
Right. Well, thank you for coming on and giving us that little bit of legal advice, Louis, because it's always good to get a professional to tell people how to, you know, handle these situations, because a lot of people don't really know what to do, and they didn't know what to do, and it's good that you've told them to contact the Labor Department. Final?
If they have any more questions, they can shoot me a message on Facebook or something like that, and I can, if they have a specific question or maybe they're tentative about approaching anyone, I can help point them in the right direction, maybe get things going for them.
Okay, thanks a lot. And I just want to say thank you for David Baye for coming on yesterday and being so forthright. I know he's been posting on the forums. The RxMuscle forums have been on fire. If you guys want to talk and discuss some of these topics that we've been doing these past 2 days, go over, register if you haven't. If you're not, if you're registered already, get over there and start posting. I know John's going to be there right after this show posting. Chris Aceto will be on there later tonight, and I'll be on there as well as Johnny Styles. I know Aaron Singerman's been on there. David Baye's posting. So there's a lot of controversy there. Let's talk it out. Let's discuss it. Let's debate it. The bottom line is we want to see sanctions against MD and Steve Bleckman until people are paid. It's our duty as the bodybuilding fans, as the bodybuilding community, to make this happen. I'm Dave Palumbo with another episode of Iron Rage.